Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not anymore, and so I have a mixed relationship to some of the media that I grew up with, the books intended for children that even as a child I found somewhat creepy. And yet I spent so much of my childhood looking over these books, poring over these pictures over and over again, and so I can't help but have a little bit of bittersweet nostalgia about it. And so that is what we are here to discuss tonight. Our collective bittersweet nostalgia, assuming that you're an ex Jehovah's Witness, which you might not be. I'm sorry that I assumed. You know what they say about people like me? They're asses. Um, and here's why I'm putting even a tiny amount of effort into this intro, is because if you are in the chat right now. If you're watching this live, first of all, thank you. There's a lot of places you could be. There's a lot going on in the world, and a lot of people are streaming live right now that, frankly, I might prefer to watch instead of myself. No, I always prefer to watch myself, of course, but you are, at the very least, a part of history because this will be a video that I will upload to the main channel. And so your discussion in the chat could guide the conversation. Your very comment could appear on screen, and thus you could experience fame and fortune. Let's just say it, fame and fortune. And not a lot of channels offer that, just fame and fortune by virtue of simply watching the stream. So consider liking, subscribing, all that stuff. Also, there's a GoFundMe my wife and I are doing. If you look on my YouTube to my posts, you can find that. I forgot to add it in the description. So it's not there now, but it probably will be afterwards. And so this will stay up on the channel until I upload the edited version of it and make it all nice and fancy, because they are not the most viewed channels, or sorry, the most viewed videos on my channel, but they're definitely my favorite two videos I've ever made are the two that I've made, just reacting to Watchtower art while in a little bit of a stoned state of mind, arguably, allegedly, so many people are saying. And so I don't even know if they're really the best videos, but I like them. They're the few videos of mine that I actually enjoy going back and watching because it's mostly, just about the paintings. And there's not so much, like I cut out the parts in the final video where I'm fixing my hair and stuff. Well, sometimes. Sometimes I do it while I'm doing the only good take that I film, and so it just has to stay in there. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that people are excited. And I like that we're in a little bit of an exclusive club right now. Mr. Sato of avoidjw.org says, oh boy, man, I have so much Watchtower art that hasn't been featured all that much that I could have sent you. Oh my God. Well, you still can, technically. And oh God, is it doing this? Okay, StreamYard, which as we all know is terrible. And oh my God, wait. Let me explain the StreamYard stupid thing first. Okay, so I set up this stream in StreamYard as I normally do. And yet, wait a minute. First of all, I have two windows open. Why is that happening? Basically, it has this new. Am I back? Okay. Basically, it has this new feature where it's like you can also stream it in vertical mode, which I thought simply meant that it would make it vertical if a person is viewing it on a phone, but that is apparently not what it means. It means it creates two separate streams on your channel, which is insane. So I'm sorry about that. Maybe we're splitting the viewership and just straight up confusing people. And again, these are things that will be cut out of the video. Like, God damn it. Yeah. It's bringing up the option to view on YouTube / view on YouTube a vertical. Oh my God. No. Okay. Well, let's see if I can fix this. Live high stakes troubleshooting is supposed to be my day job. And so normally I don't really try that hard on stream. Okay, if I go to my YouTube studio, because I just know that StreamYard, if I try and cease this madness while it is still going. It won't actually let me do it. But perhaps I can like unlist this absurd. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and unlist the vertical version. Hopefully that will just make that disappear because that is infuriating. Great job, StreamYard. Um, okay, first of all, let's get back to this. Mini mobile review with $10 dues says people like you are a lifeline to so many by sharing these things and showing we are not alone in dealing with the fallout. Thank you. Well, that is a very nice way to put we're going to lightly poke fun lightly at some creepy call artwork, but I appreciate that, and I do think that's the main point of, for me, like why I'm always going to talk about XJW stuff, even though it is weirdly now the least popular thing that I do, because to me, like that stuff was a lifeline for me when I was waking up, and so I want to make sure that it's there. I mean, obviously no one else is out there making videos, so I have to do it. I'm the only YouTuber. And thank you. This is my favorite sweater, and the secret to its success is it's actually Christina's sweater. But she has better taste in me, and so sometimes I just take her clothes. All right. Now, before we do this, I'm feeling that my mouth is a bit dry, and so I think it is unfortunately time that I take a little sip of water.
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, the water of life.
Here's how you know I'm a professional who's done this once or twice. I got so into that little character I was doing that I almost choked on my own spit. But no, you know what? Not even worth making. I think I was going to say that I don't have my headphones plugged in since we're not really going to be doing any audio, but I still was able to time my water sip in my head because I know that stupid sound drop. And it is stupid. It's gross. And by next week, we'll definitely change it for sure. All right. Oh, your tablet screensaver is the Jezebel artwork put there by my XJW husband. And see, like, this is what I like about the XJW community is that the painting of Jezebel and Jezebel as a character, in addition to like the great harlot in the Revelation book pictures, have just been reappropriated as like symbols of power, and I think that's pretty cool. So, speaking of pretty cool, let's do what God directed us to do here today, which is look at my book of Bible stories. That is the title. It's not the Bible story book. It's my personal book of Bible studies? No. And that's what they call full screen on archive.org. Okay, so here's why we're on archive.org. And remember that in the final video, I will blow this up and make it bigger so that we're not constrained by StreamYard, the absolute worst thing, the service in the world that I pay for, and definitely am going to stop paying for it and start using like Streamlab instead because, god damn it, that's so annoying. Okay, and so Lava Blue has cracked it here. When I was doing this last time, I think it was a little hard for me to find an original version of it because the original printing, the 1978 version that we are looking at, was not all in color. Now, obviously, they were painted in color, we hope. I think it would be just so amazing if they painted them in black and white. But no, they painted them in color, but because it was just expensive to publish a full color, like 200-page picture book like this, only half of the pictures were in color. And so for me, growing up looking at these, for a long time, they were black and white. Like, by the time they released the full color version, I was a little too old for the Bible story book. Now we're doing something, though. Now we're at least filling that frame. And here's what else we can do is I can do this. but then I'm kind of taking up part of the picture. I don't think we want to go down that road. All right. Now, how did I do that? It's possible that the gummy is hitting in this exact moment. Okay. There we go. But that just means we're in for a good ride. Also, I'm going to try and stay on point, but this is usually at the time where my medicine wears off and where I start going on tangents, and also some insane stuff is happening in the news. And this is not a show about the news, but sometimes it comes up.
And that was indeed good news.
And it is good news whenever we get to talk about art on the channel. But also, what we did forget, I keep meaning to start the streams with a prayer. I have a fun idea, I think, to do. I don't know if anybody used to listen to Spontaneation with Paul F. Tompkins or whatever, but he would do like a fun little improvised monologue up top. And I, in my hubris, want to try and do something like that. And so what I wanted to start doing on Sunday service, whatever that show is called, is like have suggestions in the chat of what we're going to pray about this week. And then I'll just kind of riff some bullshit about that topic while people get settled into the stream. You know, now that I'm saying it out loud, it sounds like kind of a pathetic and sad idea, but I promise it'll be fun. What were we doing? Oh, yeah, we were going to give thanks to God for our spiritual paradise because we got to see a little bit of Bo the cat.
Our spiritual paradise is a place that has many harmless animals.
Now, what do we mean by this?
And we never find out, and he never tells us what he means by it, which is why it's so mysterious. Yeah, like a monologue in the form of a prayer. Like, yeah. What year did the color one come out? That's the one I grew out with. Totally forgot there too. I feel like the color one didn't come out until like 2006 or something. It was a while. Like they had cut back already, I believe, on the amount of Awakes and Watchtowers they were printing a year, which I think probably helped them put this together. But I do have the full color version loaded up too, just for context. But this is also the highest quality scan I've been able to find. One scourge that unfortunately plagues, perhaps like the 10 plagues themselves, my previous two YouTube videos on the art of Watchtower, is that the scans that Watchtower has on their own website, jw.org, are really crappy. Like they're really small. I think probably because they have to host so many files on jw.org, but this is the one you got to go for the highest quality scan possible. I think it's disrespectful to Jehovah and his artists that they would release like a 240p scan of this thing. You're 23, so that would make total sense. I love that we're making sense of the world and solving problems. I love that for us. And so I thought we would start with the 10 plagues. I wanted to go back to the Bible story book because I covered that in my first one, but I intended to just kind of do like a best of, but I just ended up getting caught on like the first 4 things in the Bible story book and didn't get super far in it. So if you have any suggestions of things you want me to talk about, drop them in the chat and I'll make sure I set those comments aside. But usually I just kind of vibe it out. We flip around until something strikes our fancy. That's kind of a complicated term we use in the art analysis world. So maybe someone can explain what that means. But this one strikes my fancy, the 10 plagues. I would look at this all the time because this has to be one of the scariest things that has ever happened in the history of mankind if you were to take the Bible as literal history, right? Like there was just a 10-day period, or actually let's fact check this by reading the Bible storybook. I think it was like one plague a day. And it was the scariest things, the scariest supernatural phenomena that ever happened in the history of planet Earth, outside the 1 or 2 times in the Bible where God freezes the sun in place and stuff. But here's something. Here's something about this, is this chapter really begins with my command to the viewers of this video, which is look at the pictures. Look at it. Maybe I can cut in Patrick from SpongeBob screaming, "Look at it!" And I just like that we're starting off here not just with a good picture, but with a command that reflects the intentions of this stream, which again we are doing for God and His spiritual paradise. Now, I was always very disappointed as a kid that the blood river plague was printed in black and white. That's so disappointing. That's the one you really do want to see in color. Although now that I think about it, it kind of does make sense that they wouldn't want that to be in color, because I mean, there's a little bit of blood in the Bible story book, but that's the most amount of blood you can have is like a river. All right, an ocean. Fine, you got me. Oh, this is going to be horrible because you'll never believe it, but we're using StreamYard's interface. And yes, this is the only way you can possibly display a PDF on the screen. But let's figure out what page is this. Okay, 32. So on 32 of this thing, we should be able to get to the same story. I would, if that maths, but it is wrong. Oh, maybe it's story 32, not page 32. Wow. This is tough. It's tough when you're feeling some type of way and you gotta look for things. Okay, well, let's just come back to that one for its own sake later, because the Jericho wall was definitely one of my favorite Bible stories in the Bible story book. What fucking page is this, by the way? 76. That's the amount of trombones that were in the big parade. But we also know that this is a lie, at least according to StreamYard, because I'm on page 105 according to StreamYard. I'm on page like fucking 47 according to this book. This is a sham. This is a snare and a racket, like so many religions in Satan's world. I think we're going to have to go back to archive.org. We simply couldn't find the blood picture. It couldn't be done. We had the best technology in the biz, and we just couldn't do it. Now, we have the frogs. And again, I will say, I think as a kid, I would have liked to see all those jumping frogs in color. And this plague always freaked me out because it's so specific. And he does use a few other animals and insects along the way, but why frogs? Why would it be filled with frogs? The irrational fear of an attack by large grasshoppers or bloody boils was real. That's the thing. Like, as a kid with chronic health issues, I know, sad violin music, but hey, sorry, I was a fucking sick kid sometimes. But this is what I thought, just what happened when you got really sick, was you got basically the plague. And that meant you would get so many welts. And you would really need Dr. Pimple Popper, especially for this kind of situation. And you'd see it also on this guy. Now, the one who seems to be of a higher rank because his hat is taller and he has the beard chin strap. He is he has a sunburn on his back. But these are two aggressively Caucasian individuals for ancient Egypt. And I also noticed when I was pulling up this page, I was looking for the 10 plagues. I saw this one picture. Maybe it's after this, but they show the slaves being beaten, and they are the whitest slaves you've ever seen in the history of mankind. And again, we don't have the technology to find that page, but just we'll put that in the final video. What it was. What we learned is that Egypt was a white ethno-state back in the day, which is apparently the American dream all along. I think I still have the cassettes. Oh, God. I mean, how did I not talk about the cassettes? This, I think, should be its own little tangent. We don't have a tangent corner, do we? I do, actually, but it's a little tricky.
I do the weave. You know what the weave is? I'll talk about like 9 different things that they all...
We do call it the weave, and it is an amazing thing. He's had English professors compliment on that. Okay, so the pink cassettes were indeed the Great Teacher book. And the yellow cassettes, those bright yellow cassettes that had the red writing on it, just like the cover of the book, was wonderful. And it came in that, plasticky clamshell that cassettes came in, but there were like 6 of them. Christina just let out an oh, and right, and so those cassette tape clamshells, I have nostalgia for them in the way that I have nostalgia for the out of the Disney Vault VHS clamshells that like they sold the miniature versions of at McDonald's or Burger King or something. Like in general, the plastic white teeth clamshell for a VHS or a cassette was so nice. It was like those books that you get when you're a little baby that have like the really hard plastic pages. Like it feels very childish, even as we're seeing some very disturbing imagery. Okay, so it's called because we're gonna find a picture of this. My book of. I have the shittiest keyboard of all time too. My book of Bible stories, cassette tape. Oh, folks, you're not even ready for how old school this shit is. And neither is, look at this. I don't even know if our cassette booklet thing looked like this one, because, I mean, this had to have been from the original 1978 printing. I was born in 92, so, but this is amazing because that's not just a printing of that texture. It really was that leathery texture. It's so good, you could almost taste it. And I think the one that I had, there's another page. That's not right. Interesting. Maybe it was the same cover. I mean, I guess why would they change the cover of it? But I just seemed to remember, because like, look, this person just has my book of Bible stories with the little cassette tapes in it. And like I said, it does have the red writing on them. Very difficult to say. And look at this. Oh, no, we've struck gold, Jerry. This is gold. Look at this. Now, this is some bittersweet nostalgia. The Kingdom Melodies cassette tapes. And these had... Right, so these are musical arrangements of songs. So this is not just the MIDI piano track that they play at the meeting for you to sing along to. This is like... They really had composers at Bethel make arrangements out of these various Kingdom songs, and it's really crazy. I mean, like, we would listen to these a lot. This is peak field service music to this very day. And if I'm not mistaken, they do have these renditions on jw.org, which I actually think is pretty cool as media preservation. Like, I know that Watchtower has all that stuff at headquarters, and like if you're an elder Bethelite, you have access to a lot of the past publications. But anyway, I just wanted to really bask in the glory of a cassette for a second, because they're objectively pretty poor sound quality and definitely not the best way of consuming music. Like, I got this special edition of OK Computer when the 20th anniversary thing came out, and it comes with a couple cassette tapes of the album, and it is very cool as a little collector's item, but I have not had any desire to go out and get a cassette player. Although, now that I'm talking about it, the Volunteers of America that we live near definitely would have some. I mean, it's the kind of place that still has, like, there's an entire wall of VHS tapes for sale. Now, I'm going to try and stay back on task, because there's actually just this one page that we've been talking about so far. But okay,
The itchy plagues really stood out to me. You see these fleas, and like even the dog and cat is scratching, which is very funny because I'm pretty sure this kind of domesticated dog did not exist in ancient Egypt at the time. I don't think. But the locusts, you really get a sense of the horrible pestilence that kills the animals. You see these dead animals lying on the ground. Although, what is it? Wait, no. We don't. We can't even get started on the snake eating the other snake. The third craziest thing that happened that month. What is this animal back here? Is that? I guess it's a camel. We can only get in so close before it's. Well, actually, no. We can zoom, but we cannot enhance. This almost looks like a pterodactyl or the render of Yoshi from the Super Mario Brothers movie, the live action one with Bob Hoskins, like just this long neck creature. But I think that's probably supposed to be a camel. But this is what? A ferret? What is this? I'm stupid. I mean, I'm not. I don't know animals. Pariah dogs were common in Egypt, and they were extensively mummified. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't know jack about shit about really anything, so feel free to teach me any number of lessons. Okay, so you get it. There's storms, bison getting hit by lightning, and also a lady dying horribly. You have these locusts who eat their plants. You have the day of darkness, and I think that this darkness thing looks so cool. It looks so cool. Like, this is genuinely a really sick picture. I would hang this up on my wall. It's so spooky. So well done to whoever did that. And this, I was so obsessed as a kid with the headrest that they have, where it's like they didn't have pillow technology yet. They just had, but they had invented this way more complicated thing, which is like a bronze handcrafted neck holder for yourself. I never quite understood that, but I have been to museums and seen that sort of thing. But you also see it in the frog one. Oh no, guys, we're losing control of Internet Archive. We are collectively as a group. It's not me. But you can see also this guy's like, hey, get off of my not pillow. Get off of my most uncomfortable thing you could sleep on. Maybe there's a reason why the Egyptians didn't have long lifespans. Like, we were sleeping with our spinal cord basically snapped in two every night. It's like putting a corner of a cabinet on a thin wire. It's a terrible way to live your life. Sometimes I wish I had a neck stand. Well, Webhead616. Hey, Webhead, looking good. I know all the NPC quotes from the Spider-Man 2 video game for PS2 and GameCube. Okay. A 90s kid raised a JW. I vividly recall that I fell asleep to Kingdom Melody cassette tapes on my boombox. Okay, yes. So I had a Fisher-Price boombox. Thank you for reminding me, because this was supposed to be an important part of the cassette tape discussion. I fell asleep listening to the Great Teacher book and the Bible Story book a lot. I actually didn't fall asleep listening to the music, and I'm still kind of that way. I will fall asleep to music now, but I'm definitely more likely to listen to a podcast or a YouTube video when falling asleep, and I do think it's because that's how I fell asleep as a kid. And the thing that I would say, even as a witness, because it always got to laugh, and you see the kind of person I am. For some reason, I thought that the guy who narrated the Bible Story book, because I didn't know who it was. It was one of the governing body members, I believe, but I didn't know that. I thought that he was the guy on the $1 bill. Like, when I saw George Washington on the $1 bill, I was like, that kind of matches in my head what I think the Bible Story guy looks like. And so that's our founding father to me. That's what he means to me. And obviously I found out that that was not actually the case. And if anything, George Washington would have probably had some not so nice things to say about the Bible students were he to live long enough to see their existence. But while we're here, I do want to talk about this. But my goodness, my allergies are acting up, and I need to blow my nose. So I'm going to grab some tissue real quick, and we will be back after these short silences.
Wow. Listen. And it says here, forego financial advantages to attend all 3 sessions here. So again, does God notice and appreciate your efforts?
Yes, very good. Very good. My family had tapes that had these JW parodies of Disney songs. Whoa. Here's why I love these streams, is because memories are often unlocked. So did anybody, I mean, this is specific. I'm worried that this was just some demented thing that happened in my tape. It's not demented. But we had this cassette tape, and maybe Christina will know something about this. We had this cassette tape that was like a sister, so a Jehovah's Witness woman, singing some kingdom songs on the guitar, but also kind of just like how to memorize books of the Bible on the guitar. It was like the Wiggles, but just one lady and a guitar spreading JW theology. Did anybody have those? Because that I would be fascinated to revisit. But like, I believe in the internet. I do. And they've got basically everything, those internets. But that, I would be surprised if somebody had uploaded that to the internet, because like it definitely predates the internet. Well, no, I mean, like the internet existed, but it predated being able to you couldn't import a cassette tape that was recorded by some lady in a congregation in Indiana that got passed around like a bootleg Grateful Dead show or something. Like that's the kind of, this is like, I'm getting obsessed with physical media again, guys. And this is the kind of like cool underground shit that I grew up with like underground bootleg JW folk songs. But oh my God, people actually do know what I'm talking about, or maybe had their own version of it. Oh, we had a tape of a brother who had written songs. That is amazing. I learned the book of the Bible with a song with the ABC tune. Yes, exactly. Oh God, I can't do it off the top of my head, but like that's yes, that matches what I'm thinking of. I also had a bootleg non-Watchtower sanctioned cassette. Ooh, you know, we had one that was like a recording of a governing body talk or something too, like that my uncle, who is a Bethelite, recorded. So it was like, ooh, this is cool. And then, of course, they literally did a kingdom ministry that's like, you're not supposed to do that. So just, you know, to anyone worried about uploading their judicial committee or something, first of all, I did it. It worked out fine. Check your state's recording laws, of course, but also, like, they were worried about cassette tape. They were worried about handbills and pamphlets back in Russell's day, or during the first sects. The first sects. I'm saying that Russell sent dick pics, and that's why he got that divorce. Not really sure how we ended up there. God damn it, guys, my allergies are so horrible. I know that I have to sneeze. I'm a 2 sneezer. Anybody else a 2 sneezer? I have my book of Bible stories engraved in the darkest parts of my mind, says Jessica Bodyford. I'm also, well, not famous at all, but I famously mispronounce names. You know, within the confines of this channel here. All right. So I would say that this is the story that I would just ponder over the most as a kid. Get fucking back here, you snakes. This is crazy. This is a crazy thing that God did, because this was like God really pulling like a pro wrestling move, or as we might say, cucking the Pharaoh and his wise men and magic practicing priests who possessed the miraculous ability to throw down their cool walking sticks that they had. They're rods, and they threw them down. Oh, it says stick. They just had sticks. Maybe this is why everywhere I went as a kid outside, like I always had to find like a fun stick, you know. The idea of having a walking stick was very appealing, and it probably is because of this. But the thing that they would do with satanic devilry is they would throw down their artisanal walking sticks, and the stick would magically turn into snakes. And so that's a real thing that happened, according to this book. A real historical event is there was a time in history where devil worship was so powerful that there were essentially wizards walking around who could throw down a stick and turn it into a living, breathing snake. And the power move that God does to prove that he is more powerful than the less powerful gods of ancient Egypt is he just has Moses throw down his stick, and it's just bigger, and so it just eats the other snakes. Now that's fucking sick, obviously. What crazy person came up with this story? It's awesome. It's an awesome story. But this is something that I would argue should not be taught as if it is as real as, like, the Battle of Britain or something. You know, I think that we should have a little asterisk that's like, no, we don't. This is more of a story than it is a real thing, because it's hard to fit the idea of, maybe it's not hard to fit the idea of magic wielders who could turn physical objects into animals. Like, it's easy to imagine that people like that exist in the world as a little kid, you know? Like, you're already... I was allowed to watch Disney movies. My parents made allowances for that. And so I could use my imagination and imagine living in a world like that, even though I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter. I had an idea of what it was. And so you see the world in this magical way, and you can think about it. And the way you're taught to imagine the world as a Jehovah's Witness is that, like, there are people who can perform Satan magic. But weirdly, modern day Jehovah's Witnesses are not allowed to perform God magic. Like, God, after the first century, is like, we can't be doing these miracles all the time. All right, people are starting to write stuff down and lay a paper trail to this stuff. And I like a few things to remain secret. I don't want the secret recipe getting out there. I don't really know what I'm trying to articulate here. But yeah, like, miracles just stopped happening. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it's just weird when you're a kid to be going to school and you're learning about, like, the founding fathers and the pilgrims and, you know, things that happened, even though you're learning a whitewashed version of it. And then there's this, which just for sure did not happen. At no point did a man throw down a stick, which turned into a snake that ate two other stick snakes. That didn't happen. Now, I wish we could play around if that's not what's happening, but this is the past. That's not what happened. We save that for people who are alive and talking today. But also, we should just take time to appreciate this nice little chair he has. It's a pretty cool throne. They put a lot of work into this stuff. And here's another weird thing is, and I pointed this out in the first Bible storybook video I did, but what you got to do when you're looking through the Bible storybook is you got to focus on the background, maybe. Now, if you're looking at it on archive.org, it's hard to do. But if you're watching the video that I edit together, we will simply zoom in on this guy's face in the background. Like, this guy has a completely different art style. He has eyes that existed on the Me Maker menu on the Nintendo Wii. Like, you could make this me. And if I had any integrity as a video creator, I would do it, but I don't. That seems like a lot of work to figure out my capture card, to figure out how to do that. And I guess he's a fan guy, though, because he's got the big fan. So his job, his role as a cartoon character, is to fan the Pharaoh, who's always very hot and sweaty. I also, just to continue threads from previous videos, like, look how much more realistically rendered Moses is, or, yeah, this is Moses, right? I often mix up Moses and Noah, and then, like, I have had a lot of times, oh, so sorry. So sorry. To, like, sniffle into the microphone. But, yeah, there have been times when I recorded videos and just said Noah the whole time, and it was Moses, and I just had to go back and redo it all. Okay, but Moses and Aaron have two completely different art styles for their hair. Like, his hair is so realistic in its texture, and then Aaron has, like, kind of goofy, fake cartoon textures. He looks more like an action figure with the shading on his upper lip. And then you've got these guys who just, from right to left, become progressively more cartoony. This guy's got a little bit of a me situation. He kind of looks like Andrew Tate awaiting the death sentence with his weird shaved head. This guy really looks like Andrew Tate with his weird shaved head. But I think you will find, I'm finding anyway, let's look at what's happening with the perspective on this guy. Because as a bit of a drawer man, as a guy who likes to draw some pictures every once in a while, I have some notes on this guy's body shape. I am going to have to do this for the video. I'm going to have to sketch out the proportions of his body underneath his clothes, because maybe I'll find that it totally adds up, because that's a good exercise to do. But it really seems to me we found some issues with how big the backs of people's heads are in the early parts of this book, to the point where, maybe David's hair as a kid was so big that it should weigh his head down, and he's not able to get up like a turtle. This man's head, the perspective on his head is simply incorrect. I mean, his face, his entire face, is down here in the nice little triangle made by his very deliberately well-drawn hands and, following the threads, lovingly rendered forearms, which is why some of us are attracted to forearms to this day. But then you keep going up here, and this is Megamind. He is turned fully into Megamind, and then his neck, at what point is his neck stopping and his chin beginning? Like, I think the problem we have here is if he lifted up his head, he would look like the Crystal Skull aliens. He would almost be looking straight up into the sky, as best I can tell. Oh, dog, I have. It's on the channel. It's a main channel vid. I'll link it in the description after this. I need to make an Art Worldly playlist now that I've done a few, because I do have one that I haven't edited into a main channel video, because I meant to do it this year for Halloween and ran out of time for that stupid fucking Elon video. And so now I'm just going to do it whenever I can, I guess. But I also need to return to, if not the Revelation book, then other books published around that time, because there is a lot of different kinds of Watchtower art. I prefer this painterly 70s through the 2000s style. Now their art is, it's like the WikiHow art. It is technically proficient, but clinical and lifeless in a way where, like, they had an art department consisting of a few guys who were good enough at painting to put it in a book. And this is their style, and so this is a few artists who have different styles that are individual and unique to their own. As the organization goes on, it loses that until it has this totally lifeless, that whiteboard animation style that they just ripped off from The World doing the exact same thing. It looks like the bad version of a Crash Course video, a lot of their videos, on the Monster Hand. We talked about a conspiracy in that video, I think, or definitely in one of them, about the mysterious third foot, but I don't know if I know about the Revelation book, Mysterious Hand. Okay, well, I think I've thoroughly eviscerated this guy's skull. Although, shout out to the amount of detail put in the background, too. It's really cool. I'm going to do a random skip forward, like a cassette tape, like fast forwarding on a cassette tape, following the threads. Ooh, now this is a nice one, because this is a nice one to linger on at the meetings when the meetings are boring. Hang on, I gotta take a drink of water, but I simply cannot do it until I find the sound drop.
The water of life.
Very good. There's always next Halloween. Yeah. Agnostic. Is that different from agnostic? Is that like your part igneous rock? I don't know. You're seeing now why it takes me so long to edit videos, because a lot of it I am editing out failed attempts at off-the-cuff bits. All right, so this is satisfying to watch. And then we reset when we say a sentence totally wrong. This is a satisfying one to stare at for a long time. If you are at the meeting and it's boring, or if you are in a car group out in service and it's boring, like you're sitting in the backseat of the car while your parents are driving in the door-to-door ministry, and all you have, because this is pre-cell phones and tablets, and even if they did exist, probably your parents wouldn't let you do that on service anyway. So instead what you have is the books that are in your little book bag. And so obviously you keep a handy copy of the Bible story book at all times. And so you see this really cool, is it called pointillism? I don't know. There's a phrase for this. I don't really know anything about painting. I'm more of a doodler, if you know what I mean. But this guy, we talked about Adam and Eve having circus tents, and it does look like this is less a cart full of supplies for a nation in exile than it is that aforementioned circus tent. And they're going to put on a show like the circus bugs in A Bug's Life or something. This is a much better cart of supplies being dragged by a horse. And then you see they get more realistically rendered. But I really like this. I feel like in modern day Watchtower art, they would try and brush out these imperfections. But no, this is what you got to keep in there. That's what makes it human. That's why I leave so many mistakes in my videos, so people know it's not AI. It's not because I'm lazy. It's to make an artistic point. And then you start seeing the people in the different outfits and appreciating the amount of work to make each of these little splotches read as individuals with distinct sets of clothing. I mean, you see why they add color to it, because otherwise, if it was completely realistic historically or something, and bland like they would do now, well, then the image would just be totally boring and everything would run together like their modern artwork does. But this here, it's a book for kids, and so it's very colorful and nice, but it doesn't look like a PBS kids show like their current kids books look like. That very cheap, low effort, just drawing little cardboard cutouts. I hate that style. It sucks. I like the detail of this wooden wheel on this for some reason, and it's like an oxen dragging the cart. That's pretty sick. Now this guy, it really looks like he's tugging on the tail of this animal here. It looks like he's grabbing right onto that tail. The perspective on this gentleman's feet is kind of interesting because his body is kind of positioned like he's walking forward. This one foot is angled to the right, and then his other leg is going in a crazy direction. So I hope that guy's okay. Maybe he hurt his legs on the journey and is just doing the best he can, and I shouldn't be so judgmental. But yes, and look at that cute little kid. They like have just a little splash of detail here. This is nice. This is nice. And we didn't even get to this like Robin Hood motherfucker who's like, "Come, my merry men." I can never get over these head garments. I will admit, I will never. It just seems like, no, I guess I do get it because like it keeps your head covered. It keeps like maybe like the sand, something with sands. All I know is that every movie I've ever watched where somebody's in a desert, they need something, a cloth on the back of their head, maybe because the sun's beating down or something. Okay. Again, really not a particularly well-rounded or smart individual. Ooh, and here's what I'm noticing as you zoom out is that the implication here is that this is actually all one picture, and we're only seeing a little snippet of it because the perspective kind of continues up here into this picture. So that makes me wonder, well, first of all, I wonder, is this also in color in the new one? Because that almost would be weird. And actually, it is weird. I think this is supposed to be the other part of this guy's head, maybe. I don't know. But the full thing must exist somewhere, right? Or maybe they did create them separate like that and just try to match it up in some way. Okay, this is what I definitely wanted to talk about. This whole thing with like them sleeping with the prostitute. Well, no, they didn't. They just hid with her all night, just two bros hanging out with a prostitute all night long, secretly. But they were men of God, and nothing happened. And yes, she lived in an immaculate castle, and they had to go down the rope, like going down Rapunzel's hair or something. I don't know. This is like so fairy tale-esque, but then you read it as a kid, and it's like, what? But she was a what now? What was her occupation? I understand that the girl from Tangled is like a captive in the top of this tower, but like, why is she there? Okay, I'm gonna have to blow my nose again.
Wow. Listen. And it says here, forego financial advantages to attend all 3 sessions here.
I think it's the curse of the alt-worldly brands because I swear to God, this has happened the other 2 times, or the other 3 times I've recorded this kind of thing because I always end up like catching a cold or something. Okay, so like the Rahab and the prostitute thing, great. They were just chilling. Nothing even happened. Jedi business, go back to your drinks. And then the walls of Jericho. Now, I was obsessed with this because this is such a magical Aesop's Fable-esque kind of story. First of all, you have all of these Chef Boyardee-ass motherfuckers here holding... What are they holding? What are those guys holding? I understand the Avengers assemble great conch horns, but what are these guys holding? Because this is not going up to his mouth or anything. It's just like a gold reed. It's like a clarinet. No, and it like stretches behind them. Oh, they're holding the leg of the Ark of the Covenant. Now, it's worth pointing out that according to Raiders of the Lost Ark, there was not a velvet colorful drape across the top of the Ark of the Covenant. Steven Spielberg and George Lucas disagreed with this artistic interpretation. But the larger point is, as I recall, the story is that to destroy this city, because God, of course, may ask you, little Timmy, in the future, to destroy a city in his name and to clear out the bad people who are worshiping false gods in cities that full of men, women, and children you'll never meet. Because you're too busy playing the fucking horn and walking in a circle. No, so what they do is, as I recall, they have to play this song and march around the city like 7 times. And doing this 7 times causes the walls of Jericho to fall. And also we see this cool red cord that I think was left there by Rahab. She kind of gets like this hero's moment. And it's so mystical and weird. Like, again, the frog story, I think, is clever and interesting and Lynchian. I think we can say that. It's a Lynchian choice on the part of Yahweh, Jehovah, the Lord of hosts. Sometimes when I'm recording a video, and this is a little behind-the-scenes glimpse, I will realize in real time that I can make a specific reference to a previous edit that I've done, and I get so excited. And that's not embarrassing at all. Yeah, I just wonder what we're teaching our children with this kind of story. If God tells you to act like a total lunatic by blowing into a conch shell for 7 consecutive days and walking around the walls of a city, then you have to do that, and it's good, and you'll be punished if you don't. And that's the kind of person you should be in life. Weird that so much of our country has fallen to religious fanaticism. It's almost like hundreds of millions of people are raised to be dumb shits. No, we'll cut that out of the video. That didn't have anything to do with anything. It totally goes against the vibe. So we do have I got a question. Here's what I'm going to say. I've got a question about this. Why were we earlier able to move the page, but no longer? Just minutes ago, we could move the page hither and yon with ease. Oh, and it's so important that we be able to move the page. Okay. Sorry, that was embarrassing. Now, am I wrong? Or does this kind of not look like it's actually part of the book? Does this not look like maybe something a kid drew onto the Bible story book? Because Exhibit fucking A. This is just the Internet Archive's copy of this widely printed book. Is just some normal-ass Jehovah's Witness. And it was a kid's book. And when I was a kid, I would occasionally doodle little pictures in the margins. Or, okay, they might just seep on into the picture. And so, like, seeing that just now, I was like, wait a minute, what if that is something that a kid added in later? Do you remember this picture? I had a memory unlock moment for this. This explains certain fantasies I have to this day, this image. And I won't elaborate on that, but it is on the record. Now, here we have another instance of clearly these are supposed to line up, and they just don't. Like, they just couldn't get the printing right. How could this happen? How could this possibly happen? Just change the spacing of the text. What's going on? But we don't focus on that because Jehovah gives us food at the proper time. This story is one of the most important Jehovah's Witness fables. And it's so important that I do feel, with no apologies, that I should hydrate myself before I do so.
My church had been giving me ass to drink.
Okay, sorry. Now, And let's read this. Should I read it and sound off in chat? Should I read this in a Jehovah's Witnessy voice? Or should I read this in some goofy voice? Oh, right. I did a Garrett Loesch, and sometimes I'm able to do an impression if I don't think about it. I had never really tried. But it was something, if I have the muscle memory, the Garrett Loesch impression is something like this. No. He started turning into Andre the Giant. Now I'm just turning into Zoidberg from Futurama. But perhaps Steven Lett is not actually that different from a Zoidberg. I have to close my eyes because I have to imagine his dead expression, like in the Palpatinian sense of being kept alive by impossible Sith machines while your body is just actively decaying on your skeleton. Like, that is kind of the vibe I'm getting from Garrett Loesch's face for, like, frankly, the past 15 years, but he's still hanging in there. And if I imagine him as being mostly asleep, like the Sleepy Time Bear, and oh my god, that would be a good drawing. That would be a fun doodle. Is somebody drawing the Sleepy Time Bear, but it's Garrett Loesch. Because he's giving Sleepy Time Bear. I used to do a mean Zoidberg. Then again, I haven't actually practiced many of my Futurama impressions. I'm just pretty sure I can do them if I try. I was supposed to be the professor. And again, we cut this out of the video. So, they're rolling up a carpet in a dirt tent to reveal stolen things. So let's read this. I don't want to read it in Zoidberg voice. And I can't read it as Garrett Loesch because I have to have my eyes closed. Okay. You know what I could do at least a little bit of, because I'm extra nasally right now, is Chris Martin.
A key to doing a good Chris Martin from Coldplay is you have to be consciously very nasally. And so the closer you are to having some kind of pneumonia or common cold, the better. So this one's called A Thief in Israel. All right, everybody ready? Everybody ready for A Thief in Israel? Look at what this man is burying in his tent. A beautiful robe and a gold bar and some pieces of silver. He has taken them from the city of Jericho. But what should have been done? What should have been done with the things in Jericho? Do you remember? Do you remember what ought to have been done in Jericho? Sorry. These streams are just excuses for silliness. And my audience member is Christina, and she is very generous with her laughter. So I am performing for an audience of one. And so far, A+, as far as I'm concerned. And his name is not A-Chan, I learned at a young age, even though that is a cool name. Like A-Chan. That sounds like a Pokemon trainer. But I think his name is AI, is it not? It's Aiken, according to Watchtower. According to Big Bible, it's not pronounced A-Chan. It's pronounced Aiken. Wait, I think I'm realizing that that name sounds familiar because it sounds exactly like 8chan, the website. So this man's name was 8chan. And so, he's up to no good at all. Obviously, 8chan is fighting against this. Well, I would think that he would be in allegiance with the city of AI. Good old 8chan. When I do hate to drink water directly into the microphone.
The water of life.
It's no, that's too slow of a quick one because I needed a mega sip on that, and so I'm still lip smacking into the mic. Sorry to my misobronias out there because, I think you're actually making it up and that's not real, but also I do understand that sounds are gross sometimes. Jehovah answers. Wait, no. I totally skipped over important shit. So, and I need to read this normally so I can actually retain the information. So this guy has stolen a robe from the city of Jericho. But the thing that you should remember, because you read the last chapter, little Timmy, is that all of God's people were supposed to destroy everything in the city. They're just good, regular congregation folk, good church-going Christians, going and destroying everything in this city because of God saying so. Yeah, they have to perform a capital riot on a regular basis. Stop the steal, but it's just the invention of steel. They were supposed to have it. I don't even know if that made sense. They're supposed to have been destroyed, and the gold and silver were to have been given to the treasury of Jehovah's tabernacle. That doesn't sound like a scam. Hey, so God has this plan, all right? That city with all the money, God wants you to destroy it and all their shitty stuff, but all their money, I'm going to need you to bring that to me, and we'll just put that in God's savings account. And I'm just speaking for him. I had my questions too, but who am I to question the Lord Almighty? Jehovah, Yahweh, the Lord of hosts. And so Achan greedily decided to, hey, instead of destroying this thing, instead of destroying a fucking robe that I can wear, instead of setting it on fire for no reason, maybe I can just keep it. But I'll just not tell anyone because it's not really a big deal. But it is a big deal because you live in a theocracy that is run on delusions and the narcissistic whims of the leaders. And so now you have to die because you keep robe that burn. And so after Achan steals these things... Wait. The man's name is Achan. They've stolen what belongs to God. So actually that was God's robe. And God wanted you to burn it, okay? That belongs to me, and I want that in the trash. That doesn't make sense. Hey, that's mine. And I'm going to burn that thing. Unless you're a character in that movie, The Monkey. And that way it's like, hey, that's mine, and so we have to destroy it. So maybe it's like that. Maybe this was like a cursed artifact. And it had the soul of a dead Jerichoan. Sorry to any viewers from Jericho out there, whose culture I just butchered. So, God wanted this robe destroyed. He wanted it turned to ashes because it belongs to him, and that's what he wanted to do with it. And what he really didn't want is for fucking Achan to have his robe. He's like, that's my robe to burn with as I please. And so... the man's name is Achan, and those with him are part of his family. Normal way to say this is his family. Let's see what happens. Now, what happens is he gets struck down by God. So they're like, remember, kids, if you steal, God'll kill you, maybe. He can do that. So after Achan steals these things... Oh, okay. And a gold bar and some pieces of silver. Okay. I'm on Achan's side still. God doesn't need money. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't make sense. And so I'm on Achan with this one. Like, hey, a little something on the side for me and mine. You got to look out for number one. At least in God's country. And this is God's country. That's what he would want me to do. That's why my side business and the way I run it is totally legitimate. And I can take as many robes and money from that department store I work for as I want. Sorry. I was possessed by that Jericho ghost guy we were talking about earlier. So, after Achan steals all that stuff, and Joshua has just gotten wind of this. He's like, I sense a thievery. I sense thievery was afoot. And so he sends out some men to fight against the city of Ai. But they are beaten in battle. Some are killed, and the rest run away. Joshua is very sad. Aw, my invading army got slaughtered. Boo-hoo, he says. You know how you get that book that's like, Little Miss Sad Face? That's kind of what Joshua was like after his attempted ethnic cleansing failed. And so he lies down with his face to the ground and prays to Jehovah, "Why have you let this happen to us?" The biggest fucking baby in the world, blaming all of his problems on God. But God enables his behavior. Jehovah answers, "Get up. Israel has sinned. They have taken some of the things that were to be destroyed or to be given to Jehovah's tabernacle." Yeah, I speak in the third person sometimes. We can do that. Furthermore, they stole a beautiful robe and kept it secret. I will not bless you until you destroy it, and the one who has taken these things. Jehovah says that he will show Joshua who the bad man is. This little bastard stole from me. Take back my robe, or you're going to lose the next battle that I tell you to do too. You know, does this sound like a master strategist to you?
My church had been giving me ass to drink, but now I was freely receiving, come, the water of life.
I know why my mouth is getting so dry. The strain of nothing that I may or may not have smoked, it does make my mouth dry. So that's my bad. And I will say, I have to drink so much water just because of like my health issues and stuff. So I chug like, 1,000 waters a day. So just imagine that, but times 1,000. Like more people than Joshua lost in that battle, probably. And so anyway, just to recap before we talked about the water of life, God is like, I'm not going to give you any magic war powers until you take back my robe that guy stole. Now remember that Jehovah is invisible and cannot wear robes at any point in the Bible. At no point do we see him adopt clothing of any kind. So, he just wants it to have, just to like put on display in his house. Does God have a house? Or does he just have that big chair? Because there's got to be some times when God wants to stand up and walk around. I don't think I could respect a God who only ever sits in a big poop chair. Sorry. That's my transition word is sorry. So Jehovah says he will show Joshua who the bad man is. So Joshua gathers all the people together, and Jehovah picks out the bad man, Achan. Hey, that's him. That's the bad man. That's the bad man what stole my robe. Jehovah kind of turned into a different guy. Achan says, I have sinned. I saw a beautiful robe and the bar of gold and the silver pieces. I wanted them so much that I took them. You will find them buried inside my tent. And a part of this they don't get into in the Bible storybook is that Jehovah and Achan briefly swapped voices. And that's Bible canon, actually. When these things are found and brought to Joshua, he says to Achan, Why have you brought trouble on us? Now Jehovah will bring trouble on you. And at that, all the people stone Achan and his family to death. Doesn't that show that we should never take things that do not belong to us? If you take something that doesn't belong to you, hypothetically, as an example, a copy of the GameCube Color Mario Golf game that was at Kohl's, and the box was literally open, and you have big pockets because it's winter, and so you take it, and then you feel so guilty that you can't even play Mario Golf for the Game Boy Color. And then the other thing you got rattling around in your head is that sometimes the punishment for stealing, according to God, is that everybody in your church throws rocks at everybody in your family's faces until they cave in and you bleed to death because of choking on your own bones-itis. That's what happens in being stoned to death, according to the show The Leftovers. It seemed pretty accurate to me. And holy shit, Joe Dial says, I stole this from Big J's Tabernacle for you. $50 super chat. You are ever so kind. Stealing is bad, the pirate captain said to his crew. What is that from? I've heard that expression before. So, yeah, this is the kind of story that a guy who sounds like George Washington is reading me at bed every night. You know, this is the kind of stuff to fill in my head since I was a little kid. And I think it's made me a semi-above average live streamer, but has it been good for my mental health? That I cannot say. All right, well, we're going to have to jump forward quite a bit here because, I mean, look at this. If you look at the bar here, we landed on a winner. Lucky number, cutting a baby in half. Lucky number 63. Wise King Solomon. Immediately a question is raised in the mind of the reader. Well, who's King Solomon? Because the guy in this picture is trying to cut a baby in half, and that doesn't seem very wise at all. God, who is the stand-up who has the bit about the shitty mom who's like, I don't care. Yeah, cut my half my baby. Cut my baby in half. I don't care. Unfortunately, it might be Louis C.K., but, you know, he had some bangers, and we'll stop talking about him right there. So why is King Solomon? I enjoyed reading the story in the last one. I'll just tell you right now. I forgot how insanely fucked up the Bible stories are. It's been a hot second since I read the Bible story book. Solomon is a teenager when he becomes king. Was this common grammar in the 1970s that teenager was teen-ager? I mean, that seems like some 1800 shit. But I don't know. The English language is ever evolving, and it never makes sense to start with. So why wouldn't it be teen-ager? Yeah, I mean, that's the payoff to that joke, basically, is like, or the observation anyway, is like, women who aren't mothers are evil and don't care when children die. Like, okay, fuck it, cut the baby in half. And also, how stupid are these ladies that they're like, half a baby can be alive, right? Famously, we all experienced violent warfare as a part of our shared upbringing. So I'm pretty familiar with people being stabbed by knives, but I'm pretty sure that if this guy cuts a baby in half with a sword smaller than my dick, then it'll totally keep half the baby alive. And so these are the questions raised in the mind of the reader. So we all know the story. But let's hear it from the mouths of not babes. We do have babes in chat, though.
Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
We're doing the people's business here. I don't know. I turned into like a little weaselly guy. We're doing the people's business here. Wise King Solomon. Solomon is a teenager. When he becomes king, he loves Jehovah and he follows the good advice that his father David gave him. Jehovah is pleased with Solomon, and so one night he says to him in a dream, wait, this is Jehovah talking? All right. Solomon, what would you like me to give you? At this, Solomon answers, Jehovah, my God, I am very young. Wait. Oh, Jehovah, my God, I'm very young, and I don't know how to rule. So give me the wisdom to rule your people in a right way. So, you know, and then we see a screaming upside-down baby about to be murdered. Jehovah is pleased with what Solomon asks. So he says, because you have asked for wisdom, and not for long life or riches, I will give you more wisdom than anyone who has ever lived, but I will also give you what you did not ask for, both riches and glory. Even though I'm God, so I know that this will fuck your life up and, will kind of parade you around as a bad example of, falling from God's grace or whatever. And I know all that going in, but here, have the riches and glory anyway. That's just kind of in the margins. A short time later, two women come to Solomon with a hard problem. This woman, I don't know how to do like a woman voice. This woman and I live in the same house, explains one of them. I gave birth to a boy, and 2 days later, she also gave birth to a baby boy. Then one night, her baby died. But while I was asleep, she put her dead child next to me and took my baby. When I woke up and looked at the dead child, I saw that it was not mine. What? This is Jerry Springer. King Maury. Why is King Jerry Springer Dr. Phil? At this, the other woman says, no, the living child is mine. Wait, what kind of person was that? No, the living child is mine, and the dead one is hers. My voice doesn't make any fucking sense, and it doesn't have to because this is God's America. The first woman answers, no, the dead child is yours, and the living one is mine. This is the way the women argue. What will Solomon do? Sometimes that woman just takes over the story. He sends for a sword, and when it is brought, he says, cut the living baby in two, and give each woman half of it. No, cries the real mother. Please don't kill the baby. Give it to her. But the other woman says, don't give it to either of us. Go on and cut it in two. Finally, Solomon speaks. Don't kill the child. Give him to the first woman. She is the real mother. Never remembering from 1 second to the next what voice I've chosen for each character. But I think that worked for the tone. Solomon knows this because the real mother loves the baby so much that she is willing to give him to the other woman so he won't be killed. When the people hear how Solomon solved the problem, they are glad to have such a wise king. I doubt that very much. If I caught wind of that, as I did upon reading this story as a little baby, this did not seem very wise to me at all. It seemed like a crazy thing that only a crazy person would do, and that only a crazy people would like buy into the premise of it. I don't like this story is stupid, and it's embarrassing that there are otherwise intelligent people who believe this happened. I think that's pretty cringe. Oh, this looks okay. Does this thing that whoever the fuck this is, Delilah or something? No. Perhaps just an unnamed woman from the Bible, maybe. But this looks like a statue that would be like in the Zora's domain area of Tears of the Kingdom or something. Yeah, that would kind of wreck the story, wouldn't it? Then he would have had to come up with a second idea for solving the maternity issue. Coin flip. Yeah, is that not... Wouldn't that solve the same thing? Because the woman who really loves the baby would be like, no, you know what? I'm not going to leave this to chance. Or, no, okay. I said that out loud, and suddenly God's plan makes complete sense to me. It was better than mine. Iconic, biconic. I mean, look at this hairdo that he has going on. I mean, hey, come back here. I have a couple of questions about what his hair is supposed to look like, because does he just have a straight up afro? I definitely never noticed this. I always got the sense his hair was tangled up in the seaweed, which is very fun. And he's got the Marilyn Monroe dress blowing up thing, but it's because of the water, and it is barely keeping his little scrote from peeking out. But there he is, with an afro that we, again, have to just take a gander at the neckline and where the back of people's heads are. I don't think this really lines up for old Jonah. The Jonah and the whale story, of course, is awesome. It's a cool story. But Pinocchio did it better. And it had donkeys smoking cigarettes, which is cooler than anything in the Bible storybook. I mean, obviously everything that happens in Pinocchio is cooler than anything in the Bible storybook. Ooh. Well, let's give an honorable mention to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Right? I think that's their names. I'm not going to curse you with that sound drop. Or rather, I will, but I'll wait for the opportune time. Like the devil himself. I'm sorry for this insufferable theater kid energy I'm bringing to it. And the reason why it's insufferable is because I wasn't even allowed to be a theater kid, so I wasn't. But I did hang out with the theater kids. I will say that. Theater kid by association. And that bad association honestly did spoil useful habits, because here I am. And one of those friends was YouTuber Laura Crone. Shout out to friend of the channel and friend in real life, who is way more successful, and her recent videos have been really awesome. Okay, so we have more horn blowing, which is fun. And these guys remind me of the playing cards in Alice in Wonderland. Like, I'm sure that this is based off of some real historical thing, and the cards are based on that. We got a chicken and the egg situation, but I don't know. I'm just realizing, like, they have the little hats that the card guys from Alice in Wonderland also have. But in order to keep that clear throughout the picture, the hats get bigger as the guys get smaller. Shadrach, Meshach, am I saying that right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That last one I always mumbled through because it just feels like there's a couple ways it could go and some ways it could go wrong. We can tell. Yeah, no shit. I've never heard of a Jew. Well, but is that what they're doing in the Bible story? But I mean, this is the question. Wouldn't Jonah have been ostensibly Jewish, right? I mean, it would be literally the only example of an afro in the Bible storybook, and it'd be crazy just for some reason to choose Jonah. Or is that true? Oh, absolutely. Nebuchadnezzar. That's another one you gotta definitely mumble through. You know, I loved it. I loved the old art. A lot of the new art is impressive. I mean, I did talk about in the first Bible storybook when I did, like an example of modern art that I actually thought was really cool. And so sometimes they got some bangers, but now I'm going to be skeptical of the AI influence, TBH, because it really seems like they're using it. Anyway, so let's just do a couple more shuffles, because we've got usable material for channel video. Ooh. Well, how could we not talk about Christ Jesus, our Lord and Savior in heaven? Hallowed be his name. I don't know. This guy kind of looks like Paul McCartney? No. Sound off in the comments. Is there a celebrity lookalike for this guy? Also, yeah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, offensively white. And that story is like a particular staple of black churches. And of course, they would have been darker skinned guys. And, that story was a common one during, when slavery was still legal in the United States and Christianity started being picked up by some of the slaves and how the slaveholders would they had like a fake slaves Bible. Well, it was still the Bible, but they cut out the Exodus narrative. Obviously they started catching on to that. In this story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refusing to bend the knee and all that ended up being like a story. And so I don't know. It just strikes me as extra unfortunate, to be charitable. Oh my God, Tom Segura, we're close to something there. I think you might be right. Joey Fatone. It's also a little bit Joey Fatone. Tom Segura is such a good call. It's so funny. Tom Segura in the 90s stage drama at the Assembly, where they just had like spirit gum beards and handmade head garment hats that were just like a bed sheet with a bath towel wrapped around it. Okay, is JW segregated? How is racism in JW? Well, that's a tricky one. We've talked about it a few times on the channel. I'm trying to think of like videos where I get into it. I think definitely one where it has a zigzaggy background. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a convention talk or Gilead talk that I looked at or something, and the way that they whitewash their own history in regards to the civil rights movement in the U.S. and other civil rights movements abroad. They now reap the benefits of our multicultural society and acceptance, and the fact that, you know, segregation is illegal. But when segregation was legal, Jehovah's Witnesses followed Caesar's law, you know, using the law, using Jesus' words to justify not taking a stand. And now they brag in their propaganda videos essentially about not taking part in the civil rights movement because they're like, well, because the real change is going to be paradise. It's all coming in the new world. Maybe those civil rights heroes and you know, slaves who ran away and decided to fight the system, and like all these brave people who led up to abolishing slavery in the United States and abolishing Jim Crow, you know, and all that stuff. You know, they benefit from all this stuff, and then they brag about how they didn't get involved in it. I find it really insidious, but, you know, it feels accidentally racist to me, like on their part. Like it is the product of white male ignorance, like conservatively minded, self-described Christian male dudes. That informs everything. And so they like talking about how inclusive the religion is, and they certainly like the aesthetic of having a diverse religion. And like, no joke, I felt that it was not a racist organization as such, but it is a very stereotypical organization that really weaponizes and like kind of makes unwritten rules about, I wouldn't say rules isn't right, but like there is a culture of believing in broad ethnic stereotypes among white Jehovah's Witnesses, at least in my area. Like I would never describe this one person in my family as racist, but I have heard them say insanely racist things out of like thinking that they were just recognizing the common cultural differences between white people and black people. Like there is a lot of that casual stereotypical racism in the group. And I think, you know, does it matter if it is, I sound like Peter Thiel right now. You know, is it, no, but like, I don't know if it matters if it's malicious in intent or not, if the end result is racism, but like they don't exclude based on race. What they do demand is that people abandon their culture because pretty much all culture is based in false religion or pagan history or whatever. And so they kind of reduce people of color in the organization, as I would refer to it, or just like, non-white people in the group. In my opinion, they kind of refer or use them as tokens or like people wearing costumes to perform inclusion, when in reality, like if there are customs from your culture that you want to hang on to, even as you rethink, you believe this is the truth, but this is important just to me personally, and I know my God and my relationship with Him, and I feel comfortable doing this. Like, no, you're not allowed to do that. I kind of lost the plot there, but the point is, I think it's tricky to talk about racism in the organization because it's like an implicitly white supremacist group, but not in the militant or mandated sense that it is in like actual Christian nationalist churches. So it's it's tricky. Oh yeah, like antiquated slurs abound among God's people. But Jesus would hate us focusing on all this negativity when we're literally looking at a picture of Tom Segura and his wife's sleeping perfect baby. Jesus. Who does the wife look like? I mean, this is a pretty vague profile view. Could be, this could be a Rose Byrne type. Oh yeah, the Curse of Ham was referenced in early publications. I mean, I often, for reasons that don't really make a lot of sense, reference this novel that I'm working on that is going to be coming out, I swear. I've had to really dive deep to, well, no one made me, but I really dove deep into everything Russell ever wrote because I just became fascinated in the differences in his original conception of the group and the version of it that I grew up with. It almost doesn't have that much, it like thematically has something to do with the story, but it's not actually that important. It's mostly just I've become interested in him. And I like the Russell's racism is quite shocking. And it comes from a place of almost like the white liberal place of being inclusive, but not really understanding the harm that you're spreading. Like he's just taking certain stereotypes for granted, like calling indigenous people savages kind of stuff, making a lot of not quite explicit endorsements of calling black people a lesser race, but like I'm pretty much almost doing it. There's really, really bad stuff. Like there's a reason why they don't want that stuff on the website. And because I'm stoned, and there's only 58 of us, I mean, what the fuck does it matter? I think the reason why this isn't talked about it more is because that kind of stuff does not do well in the YouTube algorithm. And a lot of people who leave the group, they don't question that part of their deconstruction process. They're like, well, at least the group wasn't racist, so I'm not. And then they don't realize that they just are. And, everyone has shit they need to work on. We all have, unconscious biases that we would hopefully work on if someone pointed them out to us or whatever. But, I don't know why I'm talking about race so much. This happened on the last one, but that was because we were talking about, and wow, I can tie this back in to the stream because this is a good show. The unreleased episode of Art Worldly is looking at the Spirits of the Dead brochure, and it is specifically aimed at like spooky African cultures who believe in evil spirits, and it's like they're not ghost dummy, they're demons tricking you. And not only is there some really grotesque like depictions in the group, but it's also like the existence of that publication comes from such a white colonizer view. So I'm like, I get extra annoying lefty when I've had a little bit of something that makes my mouth fucking dry. But woke is back. If people haven't heard, no, I'm not trying to be cringy, but anyway, race and JW history is very, very interesting. And I think in addition to that, like a lot of like black YouTubers, for whatever reason, like the algorithm just fucks them over. I feel like in general, there's a weird, like YouTube has decided that only one XJW YouTuber can be successful at a time. Like it used to be Lloyd, now it's XJW Panda. And everyone else kind of gets like the same amount of views. And then there's some people that are totally buried. But I think it's just like the stuff that I'm really interested in, that I dive deep on, ends up being the stuff that gets the least amount of views on my channel, because it is really nerdy and specific, like Blue Envelope channel kind of stuff. I mean, he's really the guy who inspired me to do YouTube, because I wanted to focus on nerdy Watchtower shit. And but that kind of stuff, just like, I always try and write my scripts in a way that could appeal to somebody who has no knowledge in it, but it just doesn't. Like, it's so specific and nerdy. Like, there's a cap on the amount of people on planet Earth who give a shit. Comedy's legal again. Oh, I forgot about Elon Musk and my impression of him. I think is actually come along pretty well. Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, there's really not that much to say about Jesus. That doesn't even look that different than the traditional understanding. Right? I mean, other than just having a literal angel there, maybe it's kind of the same shit. Oh man, I was obsessed with this story. I felt like, so this is young Jesus in the temple, but I mean, I can't really. I don't even know if this is true, but this kid looked like Link from The Legend of Zelda to me, like a little bit like, oops. Like, I feel like if you put a green cap on that kid, because now he has no cap, but if you gave him some cap, I think he's basically got the tunic, and he's got these like big, unrealistically big eyes, and kind of the right hair. You know what I'm saying? Okay. My favorite guy in this drawing or painting is this guy, because this just looks like Elder Smith from whatever Southwest congregation. Like, this is just some dude at Bethel who they put some robes and a headdress on him and are like, just make a thinky face. And his face is so thinky. But I also think, paging Dr. Freud, his lips make a perfect heart. So he also loves the young Jesus, even as he is astonished by him. And so he might need to go to jail, actually. Let's see a little bit of Bible Storybook Jesus. Well, I talked about this at length. I have a homoerotic Watchtower art stream. All the streams are in the live stream playlist, even the unlisted ones. But yes, I did a whole stream about homoerotic Watchtower art, and we talked about these diapers for a good long time. Yeah. Just worth noting, Action Jesus here. Kind of a cool moment for Jesus. One of his action scenes. Ooh, the Good Samaritan. So they teach the Good Samaritan thing. Do I care about this? No. That's like, speaking of Lloyd Evans, he would talk about the Good Samaritan thing all the time. So I feel like now we've all heard this. Now, this is an example of how sometimes they do hyper-real faces and injuries and pustules on people. Like, they'll put grotesque, scary stuff to prove a point, and it is always like a violent, scary point. Even when it's the Good Samaritan, like this is a genuinely bloody and bruised guy. This is blood, right? I don't think I ever noticed this before. Oh, no. This is the corner of his blanket, but there is a little bit of blood trickling from his mouth and then up his shoulder. Or no, it's kind of pooling there. Well, they thought through their blood trail. They passed, but maybe also there's blood on his thigh for reasons we're not sure. The point of this story is that most people passed him by, but somebody who's supposed to be his religious enemy did not, and it helped him. And Jehovah's Witnesses take this to mean that the interfaith worship is illegal and contrary to God. Jesus heals the sick. Okay, so I think what we need to do to kind of close things out, because I've been talking for a good hour 45. Hey, puppy. Yeah, exactly. Sion Wells says the Good Samaritan is actually really scary because it means you have to care for people not like you. Yeah, it's like the like they have to construe it a certain way because it is just very obviously contrary to what they believe. Like they don't think that all people are worthy of your charity and respect. They don't. There are people who they consciously do leave on the side of the road and shun. So it just isn't true, even though they'll be like, well, no, in emergencies, we'll deal with you if you're shunned. Like, we're not exactly practicing the welcoming, non-shunning legacy of Jesus Christ, who did not even shun Judas Iscariot. All right. But the way I want to close this out is by talking about horniness. I think we should talk about who we had crushes on in the Bible storybook, if any, just because this unlocked a little memory of me, and I definitely thought she was a cutie. This is some kind of unnamed Bible woman. He's healing the sick, yada, yada, yada. And then one day Jesus is teaching on the Sabbath is the day, the rest of the day, the woman you can hear. Okay, the woman you see here has been very sick. For 18 years she was bent over and couldn't stand up straight. So Jesus puts his hand on her, and she begins to stand up. She is healed. This makes the religious leaders angry. Like, I don't know. Okay, so this is the woman who couldn't walk or talk. Uh-oh. I thought so too. No, I thought the same thing, that the woman had the flow of blood. Hey, by the way, I do practice non-shunning. That is kind of a hard rule for me. Like I really try. Now I might block someone on social media or something. That's not actual shunning, you babies who have complained in the comments. Not you, chat, but the uncool people. Yeah. So I thought that she was cute. And then obviously Jesus is no slouch himself. And I always liked this red sachet that he wears. It does make me appreciate, because now, and I can put this in the final edit, I've showed it a few times in videos because it's just totally insane that they portray Jesus now as having a red flowing cape. And like Superman, unironically, like he's wearing a Superman cape and he has a crown. It's really goofy, but you can see how that is a natural evolution of the bright red Superman-esque thing he would have worn. I mean, weren't colored fabrics famously more expensive back then? I guess red would be one of the easier ones to do. TBH. Purple was royalty, though. That I know for sure. Now, what's going on with this guy's arms? We have some questions about the arms. Speaking of horniness, we do like to focus in on the forearms of, I'll say it, men and women in the book. For example, we might focus in on this guy's thumb, with the way that is clearly broken. He got slammed in a door or something. But this guy's arms, what the fuck is happening? What's going on here? Are these tattoos? Is this war paint? Are these sleeves of a shirt? Because, like, we see his neck is like the same color as his skin, but then somehow there are sleeves underneath this deep V he's wearing. And we don't see where his hands terminate, so it's like, what? No, okay. Sorry to focus on the negative. If we're doing a critique, let me now say a positive thing, which is, did someone say forearms? Yes. Lovingly rendered every fine hair. What we have here is some homoerotic Watchtower Bible and Tract Society artwork that I was raised with. The Jehovah's Witnesses turned me by. God, you know, I should, like, obviously hands are super hard to draw. This would not be a bad book to study for, like, hand poses. I mean, you gotta be careful not to, you gotta pick your poison, because you might end up with a thumb like this, but this shit is very good. Like, that's a really cool hand pose. Anyway, to me, and I mentioned this in my first video, Jesus and Adam, who are drawn very similarly for theological reasons in the Bible storybook, he looks like Paul McCartney in the Get Back era. Does he not? I mean, he's got the same pushback hair, not slick back. He used to be a piece of shit. That's what I'm saying, dog. Like, there were some... what's that word? I'm trying to think. There were some heteroflexible gentlemen in the Bethel art department. For the first time in history, an art department was gay a little bit. Speaking of gay things that I talked about in a previous stream, I mean, it doesn't get any more homoerotic than this. It really doesn't. I mean, this is like a thumbnail preview for a something, if you know what I'm saying. And again, the lines do not always add up. And, you know, God can't get absolutely everything right. But they're obsessed with this. They're the only religion that portrays the Last Supper this way, and they do it because, according to them, this is historically accurate. They're like, according to artifacts we saw at the Metropolitan History Museum, it's like this. It would have been like this, and they would have been lying on the floor sideways, sensually, next to their best friends in their gang that they're a part of. And by the way, the whole thing kicked off with the leader of the pack washing all of our little toesy woesies and giving them a good scrub-a-dub. He was washing the feet of all of his homies that night and then said, here, lay your ass gently upon this pillow and listen to me talk about how my flesh is bread that you should eat. And the Bible should be taught in schools. Just gonna mention that. And this is also not gay. This is the only way this could have happened. Now, God damn it, I absolutely scrolled way far back on accident. And if I let go of the mouse, we will lose the gay. I'll never be able to find this page again because I wasn't paying attention to what it was. And archive.org doesn't let you download the fucking PDF. It's a long story. But Paul McCartney is now getting a peck on the cheek from Adam Pally. Really, really sensual stuff. And the orange coloring is kind of cool because I think it's like a movie in the 60s that shoots day for night. Like, they would shoot a scene during the day, but just in post turn down the lighting in this totally artificial way that kind of made it look like night. And it's like they're doing that here because, you know, that would be a lot of black ink to spill in this color painting. And so it's like they've chosen to highlight the fact that it's night and there's flames by giving it these little orange highlights. That is clever, but also annoying. And I think they just should have put a little bit extra effort into fucking Jesus's story. Okay, yeah, and so there it goes. There goes fucking Jesus. Glad we got to talk about that for a second. Maybe I'll add more in post. This is one of the most pathetic images ever documented, ever portrayed in any art form, and in visual media generally. I'm not saying it's a pathetic piece of art. I'm saying that they actually, better than just about anyone possibly could, captured how stupid and weird this story is. But they're not embarrassed.
There's no reason to be embarrassed about what we're going to discuss.
This is a historical fact, obviously. This might as well be in the history books. In paradise, there will be no differentiation between the history books and the Watchtower history books and the Bible history books. That will just be one thing. You know, at the same exact time that they're talking about whatever was going on in the United States when Russell was coming along. My brain is dead. You know, they'll just mix in all of that American history about Irish immigration. They'll just kind of mix all that stuff with the Bible students movement, which means they'll just tie in what they think the Bible prophecies that foretold the Bible student. You know, that's the ideal. It's like the Prager you, but it's just for Prager them. Jehovah's Witnesses are for Prager them. Dennis is for Prager you. Christian nationalism is for Dennis all of us. I lost the joke there. I forgot what I was talking about. I think the point is that every religion wants to make their religion or their religious history and the fables actual history, it seems. Not every religion, but you know what I'm saying. Shut the fuck up. So this is hilarious. This is one of the funniest things anyone has ever painted. It's incredible. This very tall guy sitting on a tiny donkey who is terrified of, I don't know, Robert Redford and the guy who plays Cal Kestis in the new Star Wars video games had a baby. Like, who is this man? Who is he and what has he done with Jesus Christ, who we liked looking at, actually? Well, this sourpuss, who has like a hippie tie-dye headband and a crazy fabric choice for the rest of his clothes, he's like, what's going on with my fucking donkey? I'm allowed to say curses that are in the Bible, so his fucking ass. And he's like, what's wrong with you? And the donkey's like, hey, hang on a second. There's an angel. There's a guy I have to have a conversation with. Like so many Eddies Murphy. A tonking donkey. God fucking damn it. Well, we're going to have to read this because I really don't remember the specifics of this story, as you can tell. Okay, it's called A Donkey Talks. I think that's a strong headline. It grabs attention. It's like, well, it can't be that stupid. Have you ever heard of why is this hard for me to say? A Tonky's donkey? Apparently, honky tonks are on the mind. I think that's what's going on. A donkey tonk. Monkeys aren't donkeys. Stop messing with my head. Terrible. Have you ever heard of a donkey's talking? Okay. Of a donkey's talking. It does say that, right? Have you ever heard of a donkey's talking? Chat, sound off. Can I get a... Am I having visions like the very ass and beast of burden we're about to read a story about? About which we're supposed to read a story. It does indeed say that. Have you ever heard of a donkey's talking? No, you may say. And I would say no to that because that question doesn't make sense. I have heard of a bird's talking, such as the parrot. I have heard of that one's a talking. No, this is just wrong. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah, it's true. I may say no to that question. Animals can't talk. Don't be stupid. But the Bible tells about a donkey that did. Let's see how it happens. Yeah, it'll explain the scientific process by which God made a donkey talk. Here's how it happened. It just fucking made it happen because of magical bullshit that we'll never be able to prove. It is, but isn't it like... I'm trying to think of a similar example. I mean, that's like an immigrant from Finland trying to tell a joke and saying it wrong, you know? Like, it just isn't how anybody would word this sentence. It's like Werner Herzog. Have you ever heard of a donkey's talking? It just sounds wrong, even if it is perhaps technically correct, not the best kind of correct. We may have forgotten the story. Well, let's see how this happens. That's where we left off. The Israelites are almost ready to go to the land of Canaan. We've had you on the edge of your seat for 41, now 42 consecutive stories. They're finally going to get there on the next page, probably. So he sends for a smart man named Balaam to come curse the Israelites. We remember a bad man earlier in 8chan, and now this is a smart man. This teaches you to think of people in very binary, simplistic ways as a young Jehovah's Witness. You're like, what's your thing? Am I a good man, a bad man? And of course, as a kid, I was no man at all. Like, am I a good toddler? Am I a good 8th grader? Balak promises to give Balaam a lot of money. So Balaam gets on his donkey and starts on his way back to see Balak. And then his donkey's talking began. Is that what they would say? Jehovah does not want Balaam to curse his people. So he sends an angel with a long sword. But okay, but what would the curse mean? Like, here's where you got to start thinking about the fact that the Bible clearly represents a world in which polytheism is understood to be the norm. Like, in these stories of the Bible, the other gods are real, and the spirits that they call upon are real. It's just that, unlike the polytheistic gods of the world, the ancient Israelites had one God. They had Yahweh. And so all the stories are about proving that their God was more powerful. I mean, that was the whole point of the plagues. Like, each of them, you know, like, oh, we're better than your God because of this reason. Because our God can actually control the locusts for real, unlike your fake locust God that you're constantly praying to. Like, okay, whatever. And I think Bible scholars would agree with my little recap there. I was totally fair to that Bible story. Where were we? So Jehovah, you know, has to be concerned about the consequences of Balaam cursing his people. When really, like, what would that mean? I had a hard time understanding that as a kid. Like, what did it mean for people to be cursed? Because what I was told cursing was saying, like, God damn it, or something. So is Balaam just going to, what, Moab? Where's he going? Canaan? And he's just going to go there and be like, hey, fuck you people. Your God's not even real, God damn it. Ha 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 ha. A curse upon thy name. And he'll just stomp off on his very small or his very big donkey. Like, isn't that the curse? But because their gods are fake, the curse wouldn't have any effect at all. So why does God need to intervene in this matter in the first place? And Christians would say, stupid bullshit to get around having to think about this. So let's not even dignify the God's advocate position. Okay, so, but the point is, that was important, and this is a good stream. Jehovah does not want Balaam to curse his people. So he sends an angel with a long sword to stand in the road to stop Balaam. Oh, sorry, Balaam can't see the angel, but his donkey does. So the donkey keeps trying to turn away from the angel and finally just lies down on the road. Balaam is very angry, and he beats his donkey with a stick. Then Jehovah causes Balaam to hear his donkey speak to him. What have I done to you so that you should beat me? Asked the donkey. I mean, I'm not going to do Eddie Murphy. You have made me look like a fool, Balaam said. If I had a sword, I would kill you. Have I ever treated you like this before? The donkey asks, for real, in real life history. No, Balaam answers. Then Jehovah lets Balaam see the angel with the sword standing on the road. The angel says, Why have you beaten your donkey? I have come to block your way, because you should not be going to curse Israel. This was the most eloquent angel that God could send. I have come to block your way, because you should not be going to curse Israel. Don't be going to do that. That's why I made your donkeys talking commence. If your donkey had not turned away from me, I would have struck you dead, but I would not have hurt your donkey. Balaam says, I have sinned. I have sinned. I did not know that you were standing on the road. The angel lets Balaam go, and Balaam goes on to seek Balak. He still tries to curse Israel, but instead, Jehovah makes him bless Israel 3 times. And, what does that mean? Bless you, Israel. Bless you, Israel. And you, I'm not going to do it 3 times in case that works, but this is quite a story, I think. Hard to really say what the lesson is here. I mean, it's very stupid that anyone could possibly think this is real. And it's important to note that, in the context in which the Bible was written, the early readers of this text, or more likely the hearers of this story, would not have understood it to be a literal event. They understood it to be a story. The conceptualization of the Bible as a literal recounting of history is actually a fairly modern conception, but for the vast majority of human history, that was not the case. Anyway, so it's just a weird story, and why is this so important? God is constantly sacrificing animals. The idea that he just cares about the beating of the donkey is absurd. He demands that his people kill animals for him just for fun so that he can smell the odor. And I am a little stoned, and somebody in the last stream asked why the atheist community doesn't like me, and I don't know. I think I'm making a lot of awesome points here that make a lot of sense. This story is, I can't, and I had 0 crushes on anybody in that fucking story. Let me tell you. And just more Jesus. Okay, a lot of Jesus. Very Jesus heavy thing. Oh, the fucking candles. Have I talked about the candles? Because the candles are important to me aesthetically. I love them. I don't have a sound drop.
Mommy, when I get out, call me Sammy.
So I loved this story as a kid. 2 scion whales, tongues of fire. Burning tongues of fire. Hey, listen. I'm just telling you that it's a thing on YouTube. You can call it a click. I would never. But I'm not at the cool kids table. Despite all that really smart stuff I was saying about how that one lady kind of looked like Rose Byrne. Anyway, the point of this is that they had to have little candles on their head. Now, I know it's not a full candle, but when you draw a candle as a cartoon, it has this exact flame on top of the wick. Does it not? Do we not all agree on the general shape of cartoon candles? But apparently that's what a tongue of fire is. It makes sense. I mean, that's a tongue-sized and, not shaped in my case, fire. Although, wait, it kind of is shaped like a tongue. Damn, I never even thought about that, guys. Good thing I had that weed that made my mouth so very dry. So the candles, it's just such an evocative image. And what I think it was remarkable about the art here is that when you think about it, Like the text of the Bible and the text of the Bible story book, dear God, is so dry and bland that it's almost creepy. And by almost, I mean it definitely is. And yet, the outpouring of the Holy Spirit and tongues of fire on the guys' heads, like that's supposed to be a cool, amazing, unifying thing, which is like kind of a trippy idea when you think about it. Like that is a strange concept to have to pull off as an artist. Like if you were making a movie of this and had to portray it, this thing that's objectively pretty creepy, somehow be a uniting, like God is cool moment, that would actually, like that would be a tricky challenge. And yet I always wanted to be hanging out with these guys in this room. There's something so very cozy about it. And yeah, you know, we're talking about crushes in the Bible storybook. I mean, this individual candlehead lady informed many crushes of mine. Very many. I cannot say the same for any individual gentleman in this particular, but like even this girl in the background. Oh, absolutely. This silver-haired fox up front. I mean, she's quietly serving. And I don't just mean fire on top of her head. This one's actually really dope in the color version, but I don't feel like getting that out. But it's one that, like, I'm glad they did it in color. What I will say is that this guy looks like Dominic Monaghan in his Lost era, I think, a little bit. But you see what I mean about cartoon eyes? Like, those are... That feels like Roger Rabbit or something. I don't know. Okay, so absolutely, yes. This was an informative... Like, I think this boy is cute. The man kneeling here is Stephen, or is it Stefan? I don't actually know. I feel like they did the gingers dirty with this guy here. Like, not... Well, no, they made... No, David has blonde hair, but they make his hair look super red. Look, the point is... Actually, this guy in the back can kind of get it. But we've talked enough about stoning for one evening. It says... You know, this just has like waking up from a hangover vibe. The meme potential for these things. I mean, you know, I love our little group here, but am I crazy for thinking that more people, like, obviously it would be a hard pitch to get just a normie to watch this, but if you did get them to watch it, would they not be entertained? These are crazy looking paintings. That's what I'm saying. I think it's important what we're doing here. And oh my God, like this is uncanny. For some reason, the scan is either not loading or it just is a little blurry on this page. But that is Sir Paul McCartney, if ever I've seen him. He's about to go on that rooftop, and he's not going to give a care about what those constables are saying about their loud rock and roll music. And no, I can't do a Paul McCartney. This dude looks a lot like, and yes, obviously, hometown hottie is this guy right here. He's got that feathered hair. No, when it gets earnest, that's when you know we're in problematic territory because, you know, I try to keep my distance. I try to keep a pretty healthy distance from my audience and from myself and my true feelings. And when they start to seep out, you know, sometimes we learn things. This is deeply creepy, actually. I definitely didn't read it as creepy as a kid because they just make the Paul and Timothy story out to be the most wholesome thing in the world. And I do get a little annoyed, even though I absolutely am part of the problem on this channel, so I'll try to do better. But I do get annoyed that like any, like even heterosexual or just non-sexual friendship between men in movies is like, if it doesn't turn into a gay romance, it's like almost seen as a disappointment, or they're seen as gay. Like, I do think it's important to demonstrate just positive platonic friendships in movies. And so I guess I'll try and check myself before I make too many gay jokes about Paul and Timothy here, because I do think there is like a wholesome way you could read this if you view the Apostle Paul as a wholesome figure, which I don't know if I do. But the point of all this was really that I thought this kid was totally cute. He should have been on Full House or something with just his whole general vibe. They might make him get rid of the grandma's curtains he's got wrapped around him. Okay. Cool. Extremely cool. One of the coolest. A boy who fell asleep. Kind of burying the lead on what happened there. It was like him falling asleep was not the thing that's interesting about this story. The thing that's interesting about this story is that he falls out of a window and fucking dies. And Paul performs a resurrection. Allegedly. Ooh. So if you zoom all the way out, you can see the tip of the window here to give you a sense of scale. That is very nice. And I do think that this... Okay. If you landed on your back and clonked your head and you fell out this window and fell onto this cobblestone road, yeah, you'd be fucking dead. No question. But I'll tell you what I liked about this story as a kid was the fact that they're holding a lantern and it's nighttime and they're like at a fucking castle or something. It felt so mythic and Robin Hood. I was obsessed with Robin Hood as a kid. Shipwrecked on an island. I obviously loved this one. I didn't mean to like do a blubbermouth thing. This one's really cool because I really liked Treasure Island as a kid. I was obsessed with Treasure Island and in general like pirate shipwreck stories and stuff. And so I liked to hang out and vibe to this story every once in a while. I think what you got to applaud is their ability to get fire so quickly in a rainstorm while everything is soaking wet. But super cool depiction of this ship sinking. I love it. And I found a celebrity lookalike, I think, maybe. Because this guy, a little bit. I mean, could that be Robin Williams, perhaps? Maybe. And this guy could be... George Carlin or something. Now, I liked this as a kid because, I wanted to be a writer. And so there is something very appealing to me about like having a little inkwell and a parchment, like a scroll, which is similar to a treasure map, I might add, and getting to write in what looks like Arabesh from Star Wars, but it's just like a cool ancient language. And then you have this dope-ass lamp hanging there, which looks quite similar to the genie's lamp from Aladdin, and Aladdin was my favorite movie as a kid. So there's a lot to love here. A lot to love about Paul in Rome. Are these historically accurate windows? I have my questions, but these guys do their homework. And the most unnecessarily rendered detail in this drawing is, who would have thunk it, the forearms and hands of a man. I do have a thing for forearms across the gender spectrum, but I don't think that you do see too many lady forearms in this. I mean, even with Jezebel. Oh, shit, we need to look at Jezebel before I stop, right? Because that's in the thumbnail. But even without that, like, she's like, you're not getting a nice, loving look at this. Kind of jacked. Okay, was maybe this a little informative? Perhaps. This might have been a slight crush. Don't worry about it. Everything's fine. Lovingly rendered forearm to the point where it's actually totally distracting because it's way more detailed than anything else in the picture. But these guys, they wanted to inspire a generation of young boys to be ashamed of themselves for masturbating. That's what they wanted to create, and they did. This outfit he has is actually just kind of fucking rad. I feel like you could get this at Top Shop or something. Like, this is kind of a cool jacket. I would totally wear this. And I'm jealous of his beard, I'll say it, and his hair, everything. Timothy is crushing it. And they did not forget that this man, according to the Bible, has 2 forearms, working and intact. Also, amazing hand pose for the drawing. I've been trying to doodle a character who draws, which means I've been trying to draw a character who holds a pencil. It's the fucking hardest thing I've ever had to draw in my life. It's just a stupid cartoon character holding a pencil, and it makes me want to die. Again, I apologize. Again. Okay. I've talked about this probably 20 times on the channel, but it is so fucking good. The end of all badness, and this is the squad rolling in. I believe them. They will end badness. Are you mad if this crew shows up? Well, there is one noteworthy thing about them, and it's something I forgot to talk about we were all hoping I would go back to it, the race conversation. They are all white, right? Even though they're angels, and this is the thing that is still deeply uncomfortable about Watchtower to this day, and I think it's shameful that they have held on to this practice. Like, unironically, like, there's absolutely zero justification for it, and it's problematic is the wrong word. Like, they, despite being this multicultural, hate-free religion where there's no superior race or anything, all of the angels are white men. And even though there are women of the anointed and black women who are anointed, they're going to be turned into white men when they go to heaven. Like, it's just fucking gross and weird. But, okay, we have to find Jezebelium. We simply must find Jezebel before we depart. Oh, I had a good 10-minute segment on that drawing of David from earlier. Okay. Let us, men, build a big tower. Not the most captivating title. Where is Jezebel, our sweet lass? Well, there is a way to find this way more easily. Okay, well, while I scroll and try and find that in the background, observe. This is a partial version of the picture. I believe the actual version in the book should have more detail. Like, this web version, they cut it off at random points to fit the page. But wait, I missed an important thing, which is, okay, it's story 66. Execute Order 66. Defenestrate the red-headed woman and become what your grandfather Vader could not. Okay. We may have just rewatched all the Star Wars movies over the past week. What we have to note about Jezebel is that she looks utterly absurd, like a total cartoon character. Like, these are like the flaming lips. This looks like a bad tattoo of a mouth. It is crazy looking. Her eyes are gigantic. She is decked out in all of this bling. She's got rings on almost all of her fingers. She's keeping this pinky free and that thumb free for a special occasion, and also that thumb free and that index finger free. And so the viewer is left to speculate what she's saving those fingers for. And will those be the first that the dogs eat when she's thrown to them? Right, so I was just kind of vamping there, and I didn't actually make any effort to look for Jezebel. Okay. Order 66. How do I navigate this page a little better? Sorry, I'm going to mute myself. Ugh, it's so cringe. I'm so sorry that I'm so awful at navigating this janky PDF thing. Like, I can skip the pages, but just the way it's numbered is weird. Like, it doesn't actually have page numbers. It has story numbers, but sometimes the stories go on for 2 or 3 pages. So it's kind of hard to find shit. Moses strikes the rock. Hey, Rahab and the spies. Oh, can we briefly touch on, since we're discussing crushes and Jezebel is certainly in contention. I mean, they knew what they were doing with Samson, and oh my God, Delilah is so cute. I mean, look, they knew what they were doing. But they also gave... They rendered this guy with... Well, maybe they're just braids. I was about to say dreadlocks, and I'm like, actually, I think those are just braids. These do look a little bit more like dreads, but they're just super tight braids, right? Hey there, Delilah. Plain white tees and so forth. Okay, my bad. So, in all of this... Oh, wait, we're close to Jezebel. We're close to Jezebel, and we will find her on our way. That's just a new song I made up. Like and subscribe for more free content. That was free, what just happened. Okay, what's going on here? Jezebel, wicked queen. Ah! Alright. Yeah. Lots more going on. So this is borderline censorship on jw.org that they cut out so much of the pictures. And, like, I love all womenkind's horrible... I was just about to say, like, about to do, like, I like redheads, and I'm like, what the fuck am I talking about? You know, I really am not the kind of guy with, like, a type, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think most people are pretty hot, and I'm not too bothered. We're all just having a good time here. Jezebel, I think, yes, I would flirt with her, but I would be unsettled by how enormous her eyes are, and the proportions of her face would, I think, terrify me so much that I wouldn't be able to really follow through with anything serious. And if somebody suggested to me that she might be a witch or demonic or something, and it's best to throw her out a window, I obviously would not take part in that because I do not sanction violence or, for that matter, tomfoolery. But I would be tempted to join in because she might be some kind of demon lady. Not our best redhead in the Watchtower canon. That, of course, would be the Whore of Babylon, who we talked about a lot in the last video. And maybe we can close it off with the singing baker, guys. No, that's a terrible way to end it. Did I actually talk about this? I think this is the image, like the thumbnail image for... Oh, well, I suppose you got to make room for shenanigans every once in a while. Yeah, also, how did her hair get that red? Like, that is not, like, it's not, like, orange ginger hair. That's, like, 90s moosed up hair dye red hair. I do love this drawing, or I keep doing that. I love this painting because it's so wholesome, and also... I don't know if anybody thought this as a kid, but it's weird to think, like, where are they at? What is this big curtain behind them? Is this their bed? Because they're so tiny that just, like, this is the sheets draping off their bed. What are they sitting on? Because the perspective is a little confusing, I think, unless there's something obvious. To me, I always thought that they were, like, at an assembly hall or a kingdom hall because a lot of the... A lot of those had this curtain backdrop. Hey, all right, okay. So I always thought they're in the hall. I think they're sitting on the floor of the second school of the King Hall. Oh my God, okay. That's amazing that we're all on the same page because I realized in real time, like, well, wait, maybe there's a totally different read on this, but that Yes, it does appear to be that. And that really was part of the ritual of being at the meeting. Like, me and my sister and our little friends, we would be in the back school looking through the books and all the crazy weird stuff they said. And like, honestly, my childhood wasn't that different than this. I think that's a weird thing that I have a hard time, articulating to people in my family, because I can't, because they don't talk to me for the most part. Although things are, maybe a little bit better more recently. Like, when I was a kid, I would be in the back school at the podium doing goofy voices of cartoon characters, reading Russell publications just to make my sister and my friends laugh. And like, I would probably make the exact same jokes if I was a Jehovah's Witness, with obviously less atheism, and maybe not cursing quite so much, but why do the witnesses claim the King James version has the same meaning as the New World Translation, but they reject the former? Well, they don't reject it necessarily. It's just it's weird. They just rhetorically insist that the New World Translation is simply their preference, but you can read whatever translation you want. But it's just like, well, all the meetings and the like the study material for the meetings and the books that they publish with all their references reference and use the wording of the New World Translation. Sorry about that. So they do believe it has the same meaning, but like, if there's something in the wording of the King James version that would lead you to a theological disagreement with a Jehovah's Witness, well, then they would just say, you can still get that meaning from the King James version. Like, the King James version was the version of the Bible that the group used until they published their own, I think. I mean, they used it for a good long time. All of Russell's and Rutherford's references are to the King James version, and so they don't they don't reject it. You can get it on your jw.org app and read it. I liked to read it sometimes just because some of it's pretty writing, but some of it is like just too esoteric and weird. Exactly. Like, and they would say, well, the New World Translation, it's just modern English. And then of course you read it and they're like, bees who are molested. Like, okay, well, nobody in modern English actually talks like that. Now, their 2013 revision, if it wasn't completely apocryphal in shameful ways, would be closer to that. Well, let's talk about a little paradise then. We haven't talked about paradise. It's all this very stream. Okay, maybe a little crush on the cutie here, who is so very modestly dressed in paradise. You're free as a bird, but also, even if you're a little black kid, you should dress like you're a white intern at a law firm. And that's how you should just dress all the time. And even in basically heaven on earth, that's how you should dress. And women, you're going to be free, finally. But also, your neck is going to be covered, okay? You're going to cover up that neck and basically wear a turtleneck. And now, okay, let's be very real. That both of these lovely ladies right here were very formative to the sorts of crushes that I had. The animals are very cute. Ooh, here's a super cute pose in the background of the kid scratching the lion. That's adorable. I love that. And these trunks of the lions are super cute. I love it. It is obviously very appealing, but other than being able to like just chillax with lions, you could just go to somewhere beautiful and see some animals right now. Obviously, capitalism makes it difficult. I said it in like a dumb guy voice, but that really is true. But like, you can do things outside, and you can interact with animals and see the parts of Earth that are paradisaic, as they would assaic. If you don't look like you're on the verge of saying, why I never, you're doing something wrong. Absolutely. What happens if your iron gets really low? Well, that's a ridiculous question. Your bodily functions will never get low. Like, you're not going to have to do blood work or some shit, because every function will be perfectly calibrated. God did want to build a meat sack full of precarious and intertwining, inconveniently, like, guts. That he wanted. He wanted that for you. But obviously in his original intention for humans, it all worked perfectly all the time. Absolutely. Like, there are places like this in Ohio. Now, okay, there's not mountains in the background, but like you can find really gorgeous places in the fall that will just make you feel like you are in like a friggin' fairy tale or something like this. And that's what I find tragic, is that it causes people to wait for an imagined future rather than living the life that they have now and trying to make the earth more like a paradise. Instead of avoiding your responsibility to do that and living in a little fantasy land where you'll just be proved right later. Meh. Be better. Okay, well, I basically totally lost my voice, so hopefully I have one tomorrow, because I want to talk about the Ross Douthat interview that's sweeping the nation. Did feminism ruin the workplace? A 1950s propaganda film productions. No, it was published in 2025, like 2 weeks ago. Or maybe 1 week ago. What is time anymore? And I want to talk about it because I now have a weird, like, obsession with Ross Douthat after doing that Peter Thiel video and finding out more about him after the fact. So I want to see it because I have not watched it. I'm saving my reaction for the stream. And if it's good, then it'll go on the channel too. And so I think this one was good. And it was a lot of fun. So thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you all on stream tomorrow. Every single one of you. God damn it. Right? Right, everybody? No. I'm sorry I yelled at you. But I'm not... I guess it's... Okay.
Veritas Forum, engaging university students and faculty in discussions about life's hardest questions and the relevance of Jesus Christ to all of life.
Well, thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thanks to you all for being here. And I just hope that you're all as excited to be here tonight as I am. Some people are fanboys when it comes to Star Wars or Game of Thrones and, whatever other show or movie you might be fond of. I am actually a fanboy when it comes to the two gentlemen who I will be moderating a conversation between tonight. I shouldn't say PP, but it's possible that as inhabitants of Northern California and habitués of Silicon Valley, you're a little more familiar with PP.